And welcome back, everybody, to Medicine from Our Hands podcast with your host, Dr. Charlie, and
Blossom.
yeah. And we today have a special guest that we're excited to bring on. We have Mitch here from Primitive Experiences and
Mich Martinez.
Mich Martinez. Yeah.
Yay. Hola. Hi. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, so today we're really excited to be bringing on Mitch together because the show is about bringing healers and space holders, the people who are doing medicine, holding space, holding medicine for their people, which is also where we were this weekend, which is a really great segue into what we're talking about. And Mitch has been like so pivotal in our own journey of like meeting each other, meeting community, healers, meeting each other in space, in great space. And so I think Mitch was like the first person we want to bring in to show people, what kind of medicine we're getting out there. And it's not the typical medicine you expect. The medicine is happening all the time by each of us. And so Mitch was like somebody that we both really cared about, that we wanted to kind of show how medicine is done without a degree, just with like the love of his gift and medicine.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for this for many reasons. First, he's just such a great person, such a positive person, a good friend. He's such a brother. And outside of that, the drum circles he runs, his point of view, and how he captures moments, his cinematography, his rhythm, his culture, his heritage, his ancestors. He's a multifaceted and multi-layered, incredible being. And if you know him, you love him. If you don't know him, you want to know him. And we're just super thrilled for this because there's so much magic and wisdom and healing that this world needs that will come from this conversation. So
Yeah. I wanted to also kind of share a story with you about kind of like where I see kind of your energy, right? The Cocopelli is a very like favorite like mythos of mine from being in California with Sedona, being really close, and all of us have done Sedona trips out there. But that was this Cocopelli, the guy on the flute, where the story that Johnny Appleseed comes from, the Pied Piper. And so this story is about basically this deity that supposedly would travel between villages and would have like a bag of seeds or a bag of instruments or bag of something, because he was kind of sharing the seeds or the knowledge from one generation to the next, and he was going from village to village. So without this character, the Cocopelli, life between village would die because they weren't able to hear like the music or the sound from like other places, be able to get seeds from other regions. And so a lot of times people said these were like the caravanning, this original like door to door salespeople. But the story of the Cocopelli has been this mythos because every culture there's this person that has an instrument that goes from place to place gathering people. And even this weekend we saw how quick the drums could gather people very quickly, right? And so I find that his magical tool is the drums. And so I love kind of the story that he's able to weave into the world through like the way he plays his drums. Would you like to share some of your stories of, yeah?
Yes. So the drums weren't my first instrument that I played. I was recalling onto the first one was the flute in school, and I was really moved when I learned how to play like the Christmas songs with the flute. And after that, my grandfather grandfather gifted me a guitar that he traded for work. He was a carpenter and worker of the building houses, and he traded that guitar for work. And so I learned the guitar, and I stopped playing when I was around 18. I had a band in Mexico, and I grew up in Mexico, in the outskirts of Mexico City, Estado de Mexico. And I was having so much fun playing. I always had so much fun. But when I was 18, I was like doing small tours with my band, meeting other bands at the time. And I stopped playing because I felt I wasn't good enough to continue playing. I was comparing myself a lot to my friends, like very like skilled, talented guitar players and musicians. And that kind of like brought me down, kind of like being insecure about myself. And it was at the time where I was transitioning from high school to college in Mexico. I wanted to study music. My mom was like, I'm going to support you, but not for music. You got to do something else. So for me, the closest thing to continue studying, supported by my mom, was digital communications, media communications. And so I put aside the music for a good while, about 10 years. And I was like, okay, I want to continue being in touch with music, but I want to do it like from behind the camera, kind of like filming my friends and arts and artists and bands. But I want to share a story of when I was 28. My good friend from Better Humans, Erika Ramelli, invited me to a gathering in her place. I was doing marketing work for her, and we had a meeting with medicine. It was microdose mushrooms. At this point, I haven't touched a guitar or I haven't played a guitar for like 10 years. We were in a break. We had just took the medicine, and we were on a break, like to go hydrate, and then coming back to the circle in her living room. She had a guitar, and I just grabbed it, and I felt pulled to play with it, even though like I had no expectations. I felt the space was like it's beautiful, and the people there was beautiful. I just grabbed the guitar and started playing in my seat and closed my eyes, and I started just like playing without thinking of the chords, without thinking of the notes, without thinking of anything else. I just like I think that I wasn't even playing any like chord. I was just I had it like sitting on my lap, and I was just like hitting it like this. And for me, it sounded good. It sounded like what I wanted to hear, what I wanted to listen and to play. I had my eyes closed, and the next thing I remember is opening them and looking around, and everybody else was already like sitting in a circle, and they had their eyes closed, and they were like in meditation pose. And after that, one of the guys there pulled me to the side, and he was like, I just want to tell you that I have never had such deep connection listening to music or listening to someone playing than what I had right now. It could be the space, it could be the medicine, but it could also be that the way that you were playing made me go there. From that moment, and I was like starting my journey with self discovery, with self love, I decided to tap into music in a different way. I bought my guitar, or like, yeah, my one guitar in like over 10 years, and started exploring it in a different way, in a way that I feel like I didn't feel any pressure of like playing. I was just enjoying. And I noticed that it was the rhythm what like pulled me to it, because when I was playing it like this, it was just like tapping it with rhythm. Um, and that was like I guess like my rediscovery of music, but drums. I don't remember listening to drums before until, or like at least like seeing them like gather around a circle until probably like around the same time. 20 I was 28, so this is probably like 2017, 2018. And I went to this place in Houston called Last Concert Cafe. They used to host drum circles there every Wednesday for over 20 years. So that was like a tradition in the space. And they used like play them for 30 minutes in between the bands. Um, at the time, I was already practicing meditation and self discovery. And I think that my body was already kind of like going into this transition of like being self conscious about myself and then allowing myself to just express freely. Um, I walked into the space and heard the drums, and I was like, wow, what is this? I saw people dancing and playing drums, and it was just so magical. I gather energy from everything that was happening at the moment. I stepped into the center of the circle and started dancing. Like I have never done that before. I have never, I guess, like at this point, before this point, I hadn't allowed myself to be seen by others dancing and moving freely. I grew up very ashamed of my body, of the way that I looked. I was overweight basically all my life before this point. And at this point, I just started moving led by the drums. And I felt such deep liberation of my body, of my mind, of my prejudices, that it changed my life. It changed my perspective about myself. It changed like the way that I saw life, because now I was like, wow, so I can feel this joy from dancing. I can feel this joy from like music. This is like new to me. And from there, I started going very frequently to that drum circle. I met really good people there. And my journey with the drums started when a good friend of mine, Karina and Nata, gifted me my first djembe. And they were like, "You look like the type of guy that will play this drum." And they gifted it me without the skin, without the head. So I had a really good friend of mine, Adam Carmen, had it for me. And when I had that drum, I just started bringing it everywhere, and it became kind of like a part of me, of what I bring everywhere. And I started playing with it, and I feel like it allowed me to tap into a different way of meditation, because I truly feel that when playing an instrument with being grounded in the present, nothing else matters other than just like you and the drum. And if there's other people playing, then it's you, the drum, and what everybody else is creating. And that has been a very potent, powerful way for me to regulate my emotions, to balance my mental space, to dancing also, to move my body, to release that stagnant energy. And it also brought me such deep joy when I decided that I wanted to start a drum circle, because the drum circle at Last Concert Cafe stopped for a few years after 2020. And um, at this point, I had already been kind of like putting gatherings together for my family and my friends to go out camping or go out glamping. And I brought my instruments, so we were just like jam with it. But it was last year, 2024. Uh, I just wanted a space to play the drum again, with a consistent space and a consistent rhythm for it. And I talked to Carlos from the Arts and Culture Lab, and I asked him like, "Hey, can I host a drum circle in the parking lot?" And he said yes. And I remember the first time I posted it like the day of, and 10 people show up, and I was like, "Wow, 10 people show up! Like this is cool." And then I started doing it the Wednesday after, and then the Wednesday after, and then the Wednesday after, and it became part of my life so much that um, I wanted to give it like an identity to it. I was like, okay, this is becoming something, and maybe it's just a drum circle, but I wanted to kind of like have certain order with it, um, especially because um, even though I received so much love and healing from drum circles before, I also saw some things that didn't align with me. One of them was alcohol, right? At drum circles that I attended before, especially like this one at last concert, it was at a bar.
Mm.
So alcohol was part of the culture, I guess. And I really wanted to create a space where I could decide what I wanted and didn't want to, according to the like where I was at that point of my life. And so I made a community agreement with the help of Little Bear, that now leads Integrity Alliance with Pao. And he kind of like coached me into, okay, what do you want? Like, how do you see this? What do you envision? And I come up with an agreement that said, okay, this is an alcohol-free space. Uh, we The rhythm and the drums are like the center of everything. Uh, Dancing is part of it. Expression, um, art, because I feel like we are all artists. We can all make art if if we embrace that creativity that we all have within. I say that like even in the way that we dress, that we do our hair today, that we speak, that we write, that we walk, we're already making art. Most natural human thing to do other than breathing. And so I gave it a structure to the drum circle, and I was thinking of a name. And I remember asking two of my good friends. I'm gonna give them credit for that because they really helped me on this. It was Piero and Oscar Sonido. Um, I was telling them, well, the drum circles every Wednesday are kind of becoming a thing, but I want to give it like an identity. And Oscar had already attended some of the gatherings that I put together before, and he was like, "I like the name primitive because, like you say always, like let's go primitive camping." And he was like, "Why don't you call it primitive drum circle or something?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, kind of like sounds good." So at this point, I knew that drum circles were part of what I wanted to create, but also these gatherings of going out camping with people were also part of it. So the name became Primitive Experience in a way that kind of like also expands to other areas, not only necessarily drum circles or just campings. And so from there, Primitive Experience was born last year. And it has been such a beautiful journey. It, it has been, there hasn't been any gathering that I have hosted that no new people show up. There's always someone new that is pulled by what we are co-creating, even though yeah, I organized it, I put it together. I feel it's a co-creation, and it has always been. A circle cannot be by one person, and so it's so amazing to see how the drums, as we were saying, the music, the art, the community, uh, held in a space, in a sacred space, in a sacred container. That is also another part, with the gatherings that I started putting together as primitive experience. I started praying at the beginning and at the end, even before people show up. I wanted to hold the space because I knew how powerful coming together and drumming is. Some people might say it's praying, some other will say it's meditation, some other will say it's just releasing energy. It could be all of them. So the vortex of energy created when we are coming together with one intention, and that intention could just be just like having fun and playing drums, is powerful. So I started seeing these spaces as sacred and seeing this gathering as ceremonies. And it's it's so amazing to see it build a community or becoming part of the Houston community or the Texas community, in a way that last year when by the end of the year, uh, I stopped doing the circles for like a couple of months. It it's so awesome to put a circle, a constant circle together, but I feel like at that point it became too much for myself. I had been doing it for 7 months, and people were approaching me and telling me why are you not doing a drum circle? Like it's like church for me. And I was like, wow. So this is like the way that people is seeing it, and I think it's similar to how people see the ecstatic dance on Sundays. It's like church or like a space for prayer, for praying for people. So the drum circle became kind of like that. And even though right now I'm not like constant with the events every Wednesday, I feel like this new approach of primitive experience, collaborating with other artists, collaborating with other spaces and communities, is bringing me so much joy. And yeah, that's how it has been so far.
Come on. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, what a beautiful story. I
Wow.
mean, it is such a beautiful to see like the breadcrumb of like your heart like being reawakened for you to like go into this journey of like from doing it for yourself to then realizing doing it for others is also what you were doing really. It's holding
Mm.
space for others to show up and kind of hearing that story is again like I've had my own journey with music too, and I feel like it's we've had all different. Did you grow up with a family full of like people who played music a lot?
Not really, but later in my life, I found out that my grandma and all of her brothers were all of her brothers were in a band, in
Mm.
like a kind of like their own band of folkloric Mexican music.
Yeah.
And my grandma always wanted to be a singer. She used to sing with them, but like she wasn't officially part of the band. But yeah, up until this point, sometimes I get like this kind of like r- intuitive remembering connections of feeling my grandma when playing music. So even though I didn't grow up in a house where like family members were playing music, I feel like it comes it comes to me sometimes through different ways.
Wow. Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that. I had no idea. I thought your first instrument was a drum. So it's so cool to see the progression. For me, I started cooking and getting the rhythm with a knife and chopping and doing recipes and things like this. And I would sit with cannabis and then I would start air drumming. And then eventually I got my first Tibetan singing bowl, a small one. And then I got a drum kit. Say that to say, then I kind of discovered your drum circles and I always really wanted to like just get to the drum. But through working with you, Rhythm of Remembrance, I've also activated different parts of my like body knowledge. One, the dance. I'm a classically trained ballerina, but also dancing by the fire is just a different kind of dance. And I've been able to sing and sing more, but you've been a direct influencer of this, just how you lead music. And so I wanted to ask, was there another profession or I don't know, were you a professional hula hooper? Something that like got you to the rhythm that you have that like can pull people to just go into a meditative state when you're tapping on a guitar?
Mm. I think that we all have it. I think that it's something that we all have. It's the first pulse that we listen to even before we're born is the heartbeat of our mothers. So I feel like it's a very intuitive knowledge that we all carry. And I feel like it is released or it is unleashed once like we have probably the consciousness to like allow it to be out. But even when we're not conscious about it, I've noticed I've done busking out in the streets. Busking is playing music in the streets where there's no stage. You like make up the stage, and I've noticed that doing that like allowed me to see the reaction of people who is not really paying attention to the music, but it's in contact with it. Because like we will be playing and people just walking, and sometimes they're like nodding their head, or sometimes people is just talking in a bench and we're playing and they're like talking but they're like or like tapping kind of. So it's like we are all capable of playing, moving, living in rhythm. It is how much are we are allowing ourselves to explore that part.
So, a follow up question is if someone is hearing this podcast for the first time or wants to go to your drum circle or is scared or nervous or doesn't consider themselves a musician, do you have words for them in order for them to get in contact deeper with the medicine or music?
Yes, I think that if you're watching this and you have been wanting to play an instrument, and that's why I like the word in English, play, because it's like playing with a toy. Like, just do it. A kid doesn't care if he's playing good or bad, or like, what is good, what is bad. A kid just doesn't care about it. Like, a kid will just care about having fun. And I think that that will be the foundation of why you're doing it. But then when you're doing it by yourself, it's like, okay, there's no kind of like rules, right? Like you can explore sound and be loud and whatever. But when you're coming into a circle with others, yes, come with this mindset of having fun and exploring. Even if you haven't played an instrument, you can just like the easy way will be like grabbing a shaker, or like not even if you don't have an instrument, just like clap, tap your body, or move or dance,
Yeah.
and listen before jumping in,
Mm.
so you can like find your way in. It's like if jumping into a wave, like you're not just gonna do it, you're like gonna feel it first and then you're gonna jump into it. So I will say just walk into spaces where music is being created collectively, listening first, and then know that everything that you do or don't do is adding to the flow. Even your presence, even just like sitting there and like listening to it is adding to it, because the drummer might not, I mean, like, because maybe you're not making any sound, but the drummer or like the people playing there is aware that you're there. So once you find your own flow, I will say start tapping, clapping into your body, feeling the rhythm, and then just try exploring drums or percussive instruments. And yeah, and always also do it with respect. Also, if they're not your instruments too. Some drums are have like animal skin, and so it's important that just like take off all of your rings, your jewelry, and play them with respect. They're also made if they have animal skin, they're made of animals and made of wood. So in some cultures, they're also carrying spirits, right? And depending how you see it, they're also carrying that spirit, and people can channel those spirits when playing them. So yeah, just do it with respect and have fun.
That's amazing advice. I feel like that's great life advice. Listen before jumping in, don't crash into the wave. My follow up question is, what is primitive and what does primitive experience mean to you?
I have a fun story about the word primitive, because the main reason why I named primitive experience like that is because of the primitive camping, right? And it took a good friend of mine named Anito. She's a university professor, professional dancer, and one time we were talking about it, and she was like, "I'm just like kind of like wanting to ask you why do you call this primitive? Like primitive is the word that colonizers called our people." She's Filipino. Uh, Called our people when they were trying to be mean to us and to be trying to telling us we're uncivilized. And I feel like after that, it's like crazy and so awesome how like it's been shaping what primitive experience is, because now I'm like, well, it's so awesome to be primitive. Like if that's what primitive is, like I don't want to be civilized. I don't want to be like put in a box. I don't want to be just like following what a few people says that we should be. So now it's kind of like a statement of like ancestral wisdom, ancestral intuitive wisdom that we all carry. This like no matter of where you're coming from, like you have ancestors, and life wasn't always like this. We weren't always into boxes. Like so, this is something that our people have experienced before, and it also means to me that we already have everything we need when even if we are naked outside and don't have anything else, like nature will provide for us. And I think that primitive experiences is that it's like a reconnection to the essential of life. It's a reconnection within to allow ourselves to explore within, and that at the same time allows us to create meaningful connections with everything around us, not only people, but Mother Earth, the fire, the water, the air, the animals, the plants, everything around us. So right now for me, primitive experience is that reconnection to the essential in life.
Yeah, I really love the primitive part of it. I think that's the part that also connects me to what you're doing. Just because I've been to a few drum circles too, and some of them, I mean, Venice in LA, right? We everyone knows those drum circles, and some of them are really scary. You're like, whoa, like how do I get in on this action, right? And then I've been to your drum circles, and what's really great is like it's simple enough for anyone to come in, but the the individuality of artistry that shows up is so good because we've got accordions, we got violins, we got cymbals, we've got flutes, we got conches. Like it allows people to have like that basis to come in and add their own culture, right? An accordion is different from like maybe bagpipes, but they all know a beat is a beat is a beat no matter where you come from, right? It's that, and we were so busy dividing ourselves today in culture that like we forgot that the medicine is that unity back of like what brings it back to unity. It is the drum beats. No matter where you go, you don't need to know the language. You just know that a
Yeah.
drum beat will give you whatever you need to play on top of that drum beat. So
Mm.
whatever instrument you are playing with, they'll recognize the drum beat because that's just all music is playing on rhythms, right? And that's kind of where you guys are going with the rhythm of remembrance. What's really beautiful is even for me as a doctor of elements, like my big push this year is like, hey, elemental medicine first. If you start to see elemental medicine first, then we're all having the same medicine, but just different names, right?
When you say elemental medicine and a doctor of, what do you mean?
So like Chinese medicine, we don't talk about the elements because they've been kind of like removed by talking about the organs. But it is like actually in the organs, like when we're talking about water, we're talking about lymphatic, we're talking about crying, sweating, and urination, right? All those are connected to water, but they're connected to the bladder and the kidneys or in the lungs, right? So that's how they relate. So understanding how those elements, but then water also means being in hot baths or doing foot detox bath because you're literally using the element of water to heal. Okay.
And for earth?
Grounding, being in clay mask, wearing clay on our bodies,
Camping?
on camping, going and just really putting earth and body, and we're literally eating the foods too, right? And
Mm-hmm.
creating more compost.
Fire?
And fire is where we gather. Fire is where we see the light. Right? Fire is where we see colors. There's no colors without fire.
Air?
Air is breath.
Duh.
But that's also breath work, right? And then that's also the drums, because the drums and music is vibrating air.
Mhm.
Without technically, they say if you're in outer space, you can't play music because there's no vibrations to bounce around.
Wow.
So you could be yelling, but there's no other
What a
molecules.
boring life the aliens have then.
Exactly.
They're probably somewhere doing this though.
Don't let
Sending
them
you a
see
dance.
us. Don't let them see us. We're dancing over here. We got the ETs. But yeah, what's great is like, there's a place for telling people to go take a drum circle as medicine,
A prescription?
a prescription.
Can you write this?
Yes. Well, because I have now, I'm making really fun like nature pads. So I'm gonna have it where I can say, hey, you need three times a week. You need to go out into nature and take a walk, 30-minute walk, 1 minute walk, 1 hour walk, and
Perfect.
do that as prescription. But now I can say, hey, drum circle. Here's a couple locations where you can get a drum circle. Because
Wow.
some signs who are air signs, like air rising, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius rising, I would say, hey, go to a drum circle. The vibrations of the community, you don't need to even talk, will release the cells that keeps you stagnant, right? And that's another way of talking about primitive elemental medicines, right? And so I think primitive is actually, if anything, is everything in its raw form. Right. And so for them to kind of diss it was more like both of us and them not understanding the power of the raw element in spirit form, right? Because we can get fancy. Everything in here is using electricity, which is fire, the element of fire, to turn on the lights, to turn on the electricity, turn on the microphones for us to talk, right? So different elements are being used in here, but we don't come and say pray to the halogen lights who are keeping the lights on for us to walk around, right? We go, oh, to sacred fire. But really, the sacred fire is in the lights. It's in the TV. It's in the LCD,
Mm.
right? So we're so far removed from the element that we have to go primitive to go see the element again in
Man.
its raw form,
Mm.
because we need to, like you guys said, remember spirit in raw form is just the four elements. In today's modern, and even the table is refined wood,
Right.
but like not the wood that you get from just going out in the forest and seeing the wood passed over from a tree, and you go, that's wood untouched by us. It becomes a table when it goes through our hands, right? So that's our medicine. But really, like, that primitive experience is kind of saying, hey, like, just go into nature and you will get the medicine you need, which
Mm.
is the elements.
Yeah, it's it's the whole issue of birth. Ready? A woman that's doing primal birth, it's going to be free lotus. Maybe she's giving birth in the water. Maybe she's in a birthing tree. Maybe she's just outside, but there's an element holding her. And I bet you that woman giving birth to that baby, there is nothing in this life that will ever stop her from doing anything. I've actually seen some really incredible pictures. I think it's South Africa, where it's a woman topless, but she has a baby strapped to her back, on her back, and then on her front she's an AK-47, and she's marching, and she's just like giving the shot what she's got. But what we've done is, ooh, that seems unsafe. Maybe she needs a midwife, a doula, a doctor, four walls, fluorescent lights, a hospital bed, a sterile environment for this baby to come through. And I bet you that woman that feels like she needs all of those things, being someone that's been in the birth room, will feel maybe less empowered to do the things in life, and then maybe has a less of a chance of being primal, or resurging that in order to live. So I think modern medicine does a good job of giving us new technologies and advances, and I think we need that to heal. Major surgeries and minor surgeries are important. However, I desire to create the middle space that holds that wisdom and knowledge, Charlie, and then goes back to the primitive, Mich, because we need both. But I feel at this exact moment we're too far sterile.
I want to add into what you were saying, Charlie, about the multiculturality of these drum circles, and I wanna say that I go learning as I continue doing this, but one of the things that I feel like was essential to the creation of primitive experience was Houston, because the diversity in the city that we have could only be translated into like what happens when we come into a drum circle, and like somebody from China comes, and then somebody from Africa, and then somebody from Venezuela, and then somebody from different places of the world, and then we start having this communication without speaking, but with our instruments or with our way we're moving, this non-verbal communication that happens when we are all around a circle. So yeah, I think that it's one of the key factors of this happening in this moment, that it's happening here in Houston. And yeah.
Yeah, what's great is what we're talking about is a lot about culture, right? Culture shows how the spirit embodies a group of people, and they've taken that into their rituals, everyday rituals. And so, um, what was really crazy is I remember the first time we had you guys were doing it at Manta Tierra with Alyssa, Nash Tower Road Woman, and you guys were doing the drum circle, and I was like, it was like me being high off of music. Like seriously, there
Wow.
was Raven who was doing the violin, right?
Nice.
So beautiful against this beautiful, already awesome drum set that's going on, and then Dave Mendoza comes out with his accordion. You're like, what is going on? What like portal did I go into? And then different instruments, like even instruments I didn't know. And I was like, this is amazing. Like this is the most awesome drum circle I've ever been to. And I wasn't even calling it a drum circle at that point. I was just going like, did I go watch an orchestra like play a symphony play? Did I not pay
Oh,
for
I
the
remember you
ticket?
said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this feels like I'm playing for a symphony ticket, like front row seat, right? And so at
Wow.
first I was trying to like get in on the action. I just couldn't, just because like there's so much magic happening now. It's like, no, I'm full just listening. And then the following week I went back to the same location and we had a few people doing drum circles, one or two people who knew their drums, and everybody who's new who just like tapping it, right? Just trying to tap to hit that rhythm. And so, and I was like sitting there trying not to judge, going, man, the last drum circle I was at is nothing compared to this. And I started to compare drum circles to other drum circles. Because we're going back to your own story of like when we like look at each other for like, oh, I'm not as good at this, or I'm not doing this, I'm as good as that. You had found your place in music, that you found your heart was speaking and expressing, that you chose that. And that to me is where real art and music is, right? Is when it's so unique that people can sense the spirit of it. And so what I get from your drum circles is always the spirit, the intention, and what you're trying to do. And you see that for who shows up. The masters have shown up at his like at your drum circles because they know that like this space is nice, beautiful, and it's like potent soil to put music over versus when you're getting that dry beat of like, dead soil that's been extracted where that guy's like, oh, I gotta play another 2 hours of drum circles right now. It's that one beat that you're just like, okay, a couple of us can hit that. But like when you hear a beat that's been filled with like love and compassion, and that beat comes out, and I see it with you and Edwin, because you will like play, and we saw it because it was happening right now in front of our tent. And then Edwin, I love Edwin. His smiles. He smiles like a child playing music for the first time.
He
Every time,
Yeah.
does.
every
Wow.
time. And I saw it like because Mitch gets it too, and Mitch just keeps playing. That's his adrenaline, and so they starts feeding each other, the air and the fire, and the air and the fire. How you breathe air into a fire, and it gets really bright. It was like what I was seeing between the two of them. And that's kind of what people sense. It's the spirit of the music, because the music is not just hitting a beat to let people hit a beat. It's hitting a beat for people to like move something within them. And so
Mm.
how people move and how much people bring in and feel comfortable into adding to the circle is the spirit waving them home through music. And that's what I sense when I see the drum circle that Mage puts together, because it's a spirit that's calling people in. That's why like we got in trouble for literally creating our own drum circle like in front of our tent. We're literally our tent is like basically at the end of the giant circle that encompasses the stage. And so exactly opposite of the stage is our booth. And so we're getting ready to basically, end the day of vending and doing all the daytime stuff where we're like, oh, we're so stressed. Let's just go and have fun now. Let's go hang out together. And so we all sit down in front of our booth and we're like, and then Mitch brings out the drum, and then Edwin sees it, smiles, and like brings out his drum. And then the two of them start going at it. And Edwin has energy of like getting you riled up. You're like, oh, more drums, and like he will tap a certain way. You're just like, yeah, and yeah, you'll keep going, and then suddenly it became a thing. Then like 10 other people started to join, to the point where we had our homie coming by and say, I love what you guys are doing. I wish I could join, but there's an actual artist coming now, and you guys are taking away from the attention, because we had built so much attention from what we were doing from just those two drums that started, and then everybody started to join in. Um,
Mm.
And that's kind of like the power. Like when I was saying the Pied Piper, Johnny Appleseed comes from the Cocopelli story. A lot of our native primitive story that people love to make fun of is OG, right?
Mm.
Old man, Daryl's like, I used to think OG was called old guy, but now it turns out OG is even better, you know? And it was this old school Daryl who's been doing this like the traveling space for so long. He like tells me these stories, and it just shows that like we're the new generation of either it's drum circles, we're bringing back primitive, right? Bringing primitive back. Was it bringing sexy back to
Oh.
primitive?
Yeah, yes.
Sexy primitive, right?
Make primitive sexy again.
Yes, yes. So that's kind of what I really love.
Mm.
The spirit that you bring in your drum circle is felt, and who shows up is how you know that it's been heard, it's been felt, and people are moved.
I want to also talk about one collaboration that I have with this primitive experience now. At the beginning, it was the drum circle every Wednesday was called Primitive Rhythm. And I was kind of like separate from primitive experience. Then the first gathering officially with primitive was Primitive Getaway. And then this collaboration that I started in Austin with Andrea Daniela, a really good friend of mine, mariachi singer, multifaceted artist. She is a professional musician and has been for almost all her life, traveling to the other side of the world doing and performing music. And we have talked about the primitive jam, we call it. She named it. And how she wanted to bring together the connection to the music that happens when we are playing drums in a drum circle with the professionalism of musicians, and bringing those together, because she has mentioned that a lot of times in the mariachi world, especially mariachi, the Mexican folkloric music, the jams that she had attended were more of like, oh yeah, let's play this song that has already been written and let's just like interpret the song. And she was like, but I like the spontaneity and the improvisation that happens at drum circles. So we put together these primitive jams in Austin where professional musicians can join and bring their instruments and plug them in, but also people who is just exploring music, sound, and movement and rhythm, and even vocalization, singing, can come together and jam into a space without the, I guess, like the expectations of like, oh, I have to like interpret this song like really good, even though like they're professional musicians, or like the other people being like, oh, I have this like expectation of playing good because the musicians here are like very good. So I think that it is just like, even if you're a professional musician, making music in this way where it's like there is no expectations for your music, there is no expectations for the way that you play, there is just a pure deep connection to what you're feeling in the moment, even if it is only one note, even if it is only two notes, even if you're not doing like the like a high skill technique, just breathe and allow the music to flow through you, and set an intention before you start playing, because that is going to not only give you the road, the roadmap of like where you're going with this thing that you're doing, but it's if you're especially playing with others, it's gonna allow them to be sure of what's being created in the space. a dream of mine is to sing drum circles everywhere, all around, because this is like the joy that you feel, like the high that you feel after playing drums connected to like this one pulse, or like when you're really locked in with the music. It's it's something that no drug or like psychoactive will give you. This is just like natural, like produced by your body, by your breathing, by the way that you're playing. And so, yeah, I would love to see this more often happening all around. And it's it's just very beautiful to see it happening more and more, and the power of the music and the medicine in the music. Um, Listening to the same music being played connects us all to one pulse, to one beat. But then your translation of that into your body, it's individualized. So when you allow yourself to be surrounded with others listening to the same music, or creating, even better, creating the same music, it's the medicine is translated by how much are you allowing yourself to receive it. So yeah, I'm very grateful for spaces where we can come together and share these pulse, these beats.
Mm.
Well said. Thank you so much for all that you've shared. Can we take a deep breath together? The question I wanted to ask you is, coming together to collaborate rhythm of remembrance, what does it mean for you to bring all of this wisdom and knowledge and have it amongst or with breath work and sound bowls, dreaming?
I see it as a as words colliding, coming together with medicine from different angles. And it's a potent collaboration that happened with practitioners and pillars of this community, but also with people who has been doing the work, and that we have come to a point where we can embrace ourselves into being guides for what we love and share it with others. I have been lately resonating with the name Rhythm of Remembrance, and it makes so much sense that it is named like that, because we are remembering who we are and how powerful we are when we are joining the rhythm, when we are tapping into this rhythm together. And I could feel that like very powerful, potent medicine for the people. Um, just because we did it with no expectations, and we just were like, okay, like this is what we love to do, and we're just gonna do it. And even though, yeah, we have been preparing for it, and like every one of us have like our own journey, and like as a collective, as a core group, like we have been putting it together. What happened that day was like, okay, let's just do it, like we like to do it, and like we know to do it. And um we opened with a prayer, right? And I did the prayer while uh, others were playing their instruments, and I felt like even if that was the only part that I was part of, that was kind of like the medicine that I wanted to bring in. Just like praying for what we have, for where we're at, for everything around us, and being grateful for having this life and then having fun with it. So I feel like that's why it is powerful, because we're doing it with so much intention for ourselves, and we and every single one of us know how powerful we are. And if sometimes we forget, like we remind one another like, hey, like that was awesome, like that was great, like
We
yeah,
do.
what you did there was great. And so I love being able to share music in this way. And I was also thinking about it, like it's I went to a show in Austin on Wednesday, and it has been a while for me since I bought a ticket to a concert, because I guess like I'm so into community that like if I go to shows, it's because my friends are playing or something's happening. But these artists, like I like them, but I don't know them personally, so I bought a ticket to go see them. And it was like a cool learning experience, and also kind of like field experience to being out there, because it made me kind of like embrace what we're doing with Rhythm of Remembrance, of like this is kind of like a concert,
Hmm.
but it is a community concert where it is important that you know people who are there. This is not just like like you finish playing and like okay, like now everybody goes home. Like I don't know who was here. It's like it is important for us to co-create this space where we can coexist together, and it's kind of like a concert, but like more than that, it's a community gathering that we create. And I think that those are the experiences that more and more and more we're going to need in our lives, because for everything that's happening out there and social media and all of the injustices happening, it is so important that we still have these like personal like connection, that we can still like look into our eyes and be in the same space, and remember that like this is the medicine. Sharing like this is the medicine. Like going to community space to us into a circle, and remind others of how beautiful life is, instead of just posting it, instead of just like going as a performer and playing and like okay bye. So Rhythm of Remembrance is doing that, and it's like a dream coming true, because live because music before speakers, before like any digital I guess like way of playing it, was only played acoustically. And that is what's like, that is how it's meant to be, that is how it's meant to happen. So having these spaces where we come into with these intentions, it's powerful. And yeah, it's like a dream coming true.
Medicine man, thank you for your medicine. So beautifully said. I think what is key to the success of Rhythm of Remembrance is how it's come together very organically. But even our jams and practices, it's not practice. It's we have no expectations and we have full play. We're serious about our play. And I think that translates really well. And I think that's a lost and forgotten art. Adults try to, and when their children are toddlers, and there's the chasing. But in general, it's easy to forget. But I think when we come together, it's not even a performance, it's an experience. Janaki calls it a movement of consciousness and time. It's a movement for sure. But what's so beautiful is that we get to remind adults that live beautiful, intense, interesting lives that we're all carrying so much. And we get to create a portal, a space, sacred space where people get to feel their best because they get to remember their inner childs, their dreams, their desires, their love, and it's so powerful.
Yeah, I wanted to say it's this beautiful rhythm of we talk about this the idea that you need structure and then you need to surrender at the same time to create flow. We see it often in like art, right? Where you learn to make drawings, learn the circles and the lines, and then when you're good at those, you break the laws to add your personality. And what I think Rhythm of Remembrance is really good at is kind of like that level of scripting music to improving music. So I would say like the distinction between like a SNL skit, right, versus a movie that has like a script. Everyone knows exactly where you need to show up. It's like having that perfect balance of improvisation, because that's what you're doing with drum circles, but then you're actually bringing the artists who know seriously understand how music theory works. And so you're making the drum circle almost melodic in its flow, right? Because everybody's got that really good structure. And I think every time I see you play, I always say, because I believe you're the conductor of the whole piece. And so people are like, how's it different from like a symphony? I'm like, in the symphony, you're playing out a script and everyone played to their perfection what they're going to play out of the day of. That's one way of conducting. But like, if you watch Mich conduct, he's conducting improvisation with a group of people at what he's picking up from the audience. And that's a much more talented way of making music, because you are making the music interactive so that the people who leave the space of music didn't just were touched by the ears that heard the music, but by the hands that touched the drums that added to the music, by the movement that added to the music, by the space they held during the music that caused someone to have an insight of melody that they interjected, right? And so it's just saying that like the medicine itself is the people coming together, playing music together. And you guys do that so well with Rhythm. You have basically your musicians that come in and play like a band would, but you guys have played enough drum circles to know that the energy of the space is what's the rhythm. You're just adding your piece to that on top of that. And that's why it's so beautifully cohesive, is because all of you are listening at the same time as you're playing, where a lot of people, this is where we see that narcissistic, me, I need my solo. Everybody shut up. Now it's time for my solo. What's great about this is people will know when it's their solo because they're listening and they're like, it's my time. And then they'll play, and everybody would just like add to it. Just slow down, listen to them adding to like feel that energy. Go, oh, we'll add to it, and then I see you like, and
That's
you
literally,
you and
I was like, are you in my
Janaki,
head?
yeah, you and Janaki were doing that, right? Where someone come in and you'd be like, and so we're dancing, and dancing we are dancing, and yeah. And I experienced a lot in R&B, but like watching you guys both add to the experience, it's like having the professionalism of music, like you're saying, seriously playing, but all at the same time, everybody playing together. And that, I think, is how we combat the world of AI, the world of scripted life, the world of edited life, where we wanted at one point how real reality TV came out, and we all thought, oh yes, something that's a little bit more realistic. Still scripted today, and that's why we're moving to social media, TikTok, because we always wanted the realistic point of view. That let them cuss because they don't know what they're saying, and then you get the truer expression of what they're saying, right? So same thing with music. You want them in the moment to feel sad or happy, and then see what music comes out, not just because you've been prepping to show everybody I'm sad now, even though I'm not really sad, but I need to play a sad song, right? Because that's the
Mm.
expectation. Like, so why people come back to drum circle is because they know that that drum circle is very unique to that day.
Yeah.
And they're going to get the medicine that is weaved into the drum circle based on who shows up.
It's so true. Another question for you. So it's a hard question to answer only because the scope of your work is so deep, it's pivotal, and it's expansive. So what is next for Primitive Experience in that? How do you see yourself continuing to co-create with community? You're a master of your craft. Is it master classes? Is it a drum cookbook? Like, what does this look like for you? Or do you also have events coming up that you'd like people to come to?
What it's next is collaboration, and expanding like that. Traveling with it. I see our community traveling together. I see us going places together, like sharing this with others, sharing it in Mexico, sharing it in Honduras, sharing it in the Caribbean, sharing it in Asia, in Europe, in Africa. I believe that this is potent medicine that we co-create when we're together. And just like when hosting a drum circle, I feel like it is a gift for myself, but it's also a gift from those who attend. The gift for myself is that others there are holding space for me to be fully myself and to play like a kid and to have fun like I'm a kid. And for others, the gift is that we are holding space for them to be themselves. And I feel like the more that we can do that, the more that we co-create a reality where we can free ourselves from the pre-program of the matrix, from the colonization of the mind, from the prejudices of, do I look good? Do I look bad? Is this okay? Is this wrong? It is just planting those seeds that happens when you are being fully yourself and others see you and they are like, wow, can I do the same? Am I able to do the same? So even if people don't attend, but they can see it and they can be spectators of what's happening with our medicine when we're sharing it as a group, I feel like that will be like bringing the medicine to everywhere where they are. Another way that I see it happening, taking myself away from the bigger dream, it is, as I said, drum circles happening everywhere. Drum circles happening in my neighborhood in Mexico, drum circles happening in every single neighborhood of Houston, of Texas, of the US, of the continent, of the world. Just the way that we used to come together as people, as tribe, and gathering around the fire and playing music and enjoying being alive with the essential of life.
Oh, wait, sorry. Oh, yeah. More music. More music. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Wow. Your dreams will come true. This much I know. Hmm. So powerful. Wow. I know.
Yeah.
Just take it in. Take it
Yes.
in.
Yes. Yeah. I would just want to share how it is so powerful to be able to see community come together and really see kind of how powerful this medicine is, because I think this is what's really missing is people are just looking for like connections,
Yeah.
and looking for each other. And what I loved, I've been camping and done circles with you, and so it was camping with Labor Day weekend camping. I love that. And when we were there, just everybody was coming from all over the place to go, oh, how do how do you know here? Where are you coming from? It's always Mich, and we're coming from all over the place: Austin, San Antonio, Dallas. And it was really beautiful to see. It's like, like he's doing his thing. He's traveling, meeting everybody, connecting with everybody, and so that's been really beautiful to kind of watch you in your like power of being able to like bring people together through music. And for me, it's like I want to be part of that even more, just because it like one of my dreams is like the cosmic labyrinth is all about bringing people together, but like bringing back the old gypsies, right? Where instead of like we're doing circus acts, why can't we do like drum circles, talk about food is medicine, talk about primitive. Primitive is like conservative is like ancestral, and understanding that we are trying to bring it to a modern time now, because we still need the medicine of the drums and of
Mhm.
community. But maybe we don't have to go camping, in some place that's very difficult for everybody. But maybe there's a middle ground where eventually we get everybody. And that's what I love, that like we're not afraid to go into the places that don't have it, to bring it, because it's easy to go to the drum circles that are already being done. But if there's no drum circles here, then we're not getting the healings done here, right? So it
Mhm.
is kind of like I love how like yeah, we should have more drum circles, but also like having the right people. We don't need certifications, but we definitely, I feel like everybody should be going to these awesome, primitive experiences drum circles to kind of get that upgrade, right? It is kind of like I feel like we're moving to a place where we're looking for where real humans connect, because with the advent of AI now and everything that's kind of like being sold to us in a very scripted, perfect way of looking at things isn't normal anymore. It is the AI, it
Mhm.
is the artificial experience of that. And so, what I love that primitive experience, and even what we're doing, is trying to bring the local people. Like, this is not gonna be a celebrity in Houston. This is gonna be local celebrity. I meet you guys is a local celebrity, yo.
Meet
Like,
the man.
meet the man. And it is like understanding that that's the community we're in. Instead of like you meet these people who have like tens and hundred thousands of followers they probably bought online. Like these people are just like they might have not a lot of followers, but every follower on their list loves them, goes to their events. And that to
Period.
me is the influencers I want to be around, not the ones that like have no clue who their thousands and thousands of influencers are. It's the
Mm.
one that know all their names and invites them all to their place, and they always say, I love hanging out with Mitch because he always like takes me places, right? So that is
Mhm.
kind of like a representation of the beauty that you're doing, the magic that you're weaving in community with music. And I love how you've like made it, kept it almost raw, and not it doesn't have all
Mm.
the
Mm.
what we call like the bells and whistles to make it make money. Like, because a lot of times too early when we're coming in and making things that we feel like the community needs, sometimes we will latch on the, well, it needs to be financially stable for this to make sense. And I love
Mm.
that sometimes we don't have to do that too early to be able to keep letting that creativity come out. And then eventually, yes, I think the abundance of the finance where, why we need to do this every time, but like now we need to like make sure we can pay the location for every time we do it,
Of course.
and that to me is the development of like these beautiful artist art or music places, rather than right away how are we going to make money, because I know
Yeah.
that's a very common
Yeah.
things we run into.
When it's a really good idea, it's usually has nothing to do with money. And I'll say that the reason why it's so good is because it made sense in his head and he just made it make sense. Money will come, the people will come, the healing will come, but these are life missions, like destiny paths,
Mm.
projects, and it, it's part the reason why I'm a doula. It's not to just be the wealthiest person ever. It's to serve. It's to give. I wanted to ask you: is there anything else or is there anything you'd like to tell your supporters, your people, your loved ones?
Mm. Well, with that, I also want to say that I feel deeply grateful for following this passion for community and for gatherings, for drums, for music that is big time supported by my other part of like what I do, which is multimedia production and filming for meaningful clients, meaningful groups, meaningful nonprofit organizations in the community. Barrio Dogs, Urban Paths, Buffalo Bayou Partnership, Make Music Day, the Arts District Houston, that I want to share that 6, 7 years ago, I was working full time being a nightclub photographer, going out to nightclubs and taking pictures of people until one day I was like, I'm done with this. Like, this doesn't align with my life. Even though it's good money, I don't want to be into this world. And so I changed my mindset to being like more meaningful about who I wanted to work with. And that has been a beautiful journey of just like, even though challenging, because as soon as I said like I'm not gonna do this, the day after I got a call and they were like, "Hey, you want to work at this nightclub? It's good money." And I was like, "Oof!" But I was so sure I didn't want to do that no more. That even though it took a while to like get on my feet and starting doing it like that, now I see how beautiful it is that I have this like foundation that allows me to like the days that I'm not doing that, I'm drumming and I'm gathering with community. I want to say that do it. If you have an idea, just do it. If you would like to see something happening, just do it. It doesn't matter if like at the beginning it's just you, just start it. You have an idea for a gathering, it doesn't take more than you saying I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna show up. And if nobody shows up, that's fine. I'm gonna do it again next week, and I'm
Mm.
gonna do it again next week, and I'm gonna do it again next week,
Mm.
because that's the only way it happens. For me, it happened like that with the gatherings, with the primitive camping and going glamping. It was like I want to go camping. As a kid, I didn't have the opportunity of going out in nature like that. So when I was uh, it was before I turned 30 that I started gathering my family and my friends to go out camping. I was like, yes, this is what I want. So this is what I want to. I can go by myself, but if I go with others, it's like 10 times, 20 times more fun. So if you want to see something happening, if you want to experience something, just do it. It doesn't matter. And I think that rhythm of remembrance is a big like example of that, because we came together the first time at a brewery where we happened to be for different reasons, but the same reason of sharing our gifts with other: music, breathwork, weaving, food. And we gathered into the stage, started playing, and a few minutes after we were kicked out. and and that really didn't stop us. We were like, the reason why we're here is because we enjoy doing this. Like, the performative aspect of it, being on a stage, was triggering for the people who kicked us out, right? But we continued. We agreed on playing after and gathering at a park right after that and continue doing what we were there for, which was playing music, gathering in community. And that's how it started. So just continue doing it, doesn't matter of what. And also another shout out that I want to give, like you were saying, a local celebrity. I remember last week when I was on my way to Medicine for the People, I called my mom and I told her, I was like, thank you, because everywhere I go, everywhere I walk, everywhere, every space that I am in, you and your medicine accompanies me. You and the way that you raised me and the way and the love that you gave me and the wisdom that you share with me walk with me every single space that I am in. And so I'm very grateful for my mother. And I want to say that it resonates when you say local celebrity, because she's a local celebrity in our
Mm.
neighborhood in Mexico, because she's an activist of our community. She's always supporting
Mm.
people. She has a shop, an office and school supply shop. And people go to see her, yeah, to buy from her shop, but also to talk to her and to receive like her medicine like that. So, gracias, mama.
Thank
Oh,
you so
thank you so
much.
much.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you, Misha's mom. We love you. Thank you for birthing such a brilliant light in this amazing world. What an incredible job she did.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for this beautiful story, for us coming together to share medicine together. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. We'll leave contact information, website information to contact Mich and all the amazing things he's doing. So please subscribe, follow us, continue
Yes.
with us the conversation as we kind of keep meeting awesome people. So thank you, everyone. Until next time,
Mm,
medicine from our
with
hands.
love.
Yeah.